Gold medal awarded.
Whilst writing this video, I tried to think of a witty opening that involved the word speed. Today's video is about a game that has a lot to do with speed, and all I could come up with was some kind of monologue about Twickley wanting to be buried, preferably alive. Redout. Start the video. Redout is a racing game so bum-clenchingly fast that it gave me heart palpitations. I'm not exaggerating for the purposes of hooking you in here either. Redout is so blisteringly, excessively twit that I genuinely had to stop playing it because I felt like I may be at risk of dying. Hello, yeah? 999? I've been playing a video game about space stars going really fast, and I worry they're most important, yet cruelly also my most feeble internal organ may be about to stop doing its job. Yes, I'll hold. Redout is a racing game for the PC that's basically a modern day Wipeout / F-Zero, and I'm not diminishing the game's value by making those comparisons because that's literally how the developers describe it themselves. Look, there it is in the Steam description, right at the top. And you know what? That's great. The developers had a clear vision of what it is they wanted to create, and it paid off because Redout was one of the most sublimely made racing games I've ever played before. Here's the best thing about Redout. It's hard. It's painfully, frustratingly hard. It's so tough that it took me 30 minutes to complete the first level in the game's career mode. 30 solid minutes to complete 3 laps of a time trial. And I loved every single second I spent creatively swearing at every one of my fail. Fuck my knees, you sweaty sewer fish! Redout has a lot of great things going for it, which I'll quickly display on the screen now because quite simply I don't feel the need to talk about them. They're all great, every single last one of them justifies the game's already reasonable price tag, but all of these things aren't what makes this game so outstanding. What makes Redout so insultingly good is the tightness and focus of its design, and more specifically, the simple way it feels to guide your ship around a track. You see, the best thing about those anti-gravity races such as Wipeout and F-Zero that Redout takes shameless amounts of inspiration from is that they play differently when compared to more traditional racing games. Your vehicles, most importantly, don't have wheels. Instead, they grip to the track underneath them using magnets. Now, instead of just making your ship control like the normal car in order to ease the player into the experience by replicating a set of laws and systems they're already familiar with in the real world, both of these games say no. Fuck you. That's not how we do things around here. Both games made full use of the futuristic setting mechanically as well as visually in order to implement a movement system that feels as unique as flinging a starship around a magnetic strip should. Both F-Zero and Wipeout stick your craft to the track, making its tight dips and rises, loop-the-loops and, well, full, tube, spin, whatever these are, feel as natural as turning a regular corner would in a traditional racer. Wipeout then went and took things one step further and rethought the entire way a ship should handle. With no wheels, there's no friction, and therefore the act of drifting has to be initiated in a completely different way. Dawn is the one-button drift mechanic, replaced instead by the air brake, a way of twisting your ship within a 3-dimensional space using air in order to realign the thrusters into your intended direction when taking a corner. If it sounds complicated, that's because it is. That's the point. You're fundamentally piloting a spaceship, and this advanced controls theme plays into the fantasy of the world the developers have created. If Wipeout followed the well-known mechanics outlined by other racing games, what would be the point in the game being set in the future in the first place? In a world of anti-gravity, thrusters and shields, shouldn't the gameplay reflect the setting? This is what Redout exceeds in recreating for modern day machines. It looks at the way vehicles handle in both these classic games and replicates them perfectly, but not before adding a little bit of polish of their own. Ships stick to the track and are manoeuvred around tight turns by pitching the craft in the appropriate direction. If you're wondering how this works, the left stick controls the direction of your ship, the right stick controls your pitch, right trigger is door, left trigger is brake, and A is boost. Don't get me wrong, it's fiddly, and it quite simply has to be played with a controller. You can try with a keyboard, but it just doesn't give you the control necessary for a game that relies so much on careful precision. And this is where my original comment about the game being hard comes into focus. Redout doesn't ease you into this new way of controlling a craft, instead it punishes you instantly. The first turn on the first course cannot, quite simply, be passed successfully without drifting, meaning most first-time players will bump into it as soon as they attempt to pass through it. On their second lap, after being battered and bruised caused by the Torsa's infinitely tighter turns, chances are you'll instinctively squeeze the left trigger in order to brake. This is all well and good, however the brake in Redout acts more as an emergency stop. Braking around a corner will slow you down too much, losing you valuable seconds, and, if you're anything like me, the first time I attempted to play this game, the whole first level, repeatedly. Half an hour. I'm not joking. It really doesn't help that Redout doesn't feature a tutorial. It's a real flaw because there's no way that the game can teach you how to successfully play it other than through trial and error. It took only my prior knowledge of the genre in order to rummage through the game's control options in order to seek out Redout's equivalent of Wipeout's air brake. That was a really hard sentence to say. But once you find out what pitching can do, and once you realise that easing into a corner in order to reposition your thrusters by drifting before letting out a roar of boost that propels you in front of the competition, there's no thrill like it. Gliding effortlessly around a course is hard, and it genuinely feels like a skill that has to be learned over time, but perfecting it is a reward in of itself, far more than the arbitrary coloured medals that are granted to you by some of the worst voice acting I've ever heard.
Gold medal awarded.
The combination of clean visuals and superb audio design helps give Redout one of the best senses of speed I've ever experienced in a video game before. Objects whip by you and the wind rushes past your ears as you perform nauseatingly high jumps. Coupled with the controls, the game becomes almost akin to that of a wrestling match. You begin to forget about the other contestants or the ever-present threat of a timer, and instead focus on constantly keeping your ship steady whilst maintaining its death-defying speeds. It's a fight, and it's a thrill, and there's nothing else quite like it. It's pure, white-knuckled adrenaline from start to finish. It feels truly like you're the pilot of an aerodynamic piece of alien equipment, and it makes any kind of victory that much more sweeter because you've managed to cross the finish line almost despite the vehicle you chose to compete in. Never before have I been more proud of winning a bronze medal, because a bronze medal meant that I'd done it. It didn't matter what position I'd come in, I spent 90% of the track screaming, well aware that I was making decisions that dictated whether or not my ship progressed smoothly through a corner or crashed into a ball of digital flame every single second. This is a truly wonderful game. It's fierce, it's punishing, its sense of control is unprecedented. Never before have I felt so empowered in my craft, yet so hopeless at successfully manoeuvring it through the danger I was hurtling terrifyingly towards. If Redout's mission was simply to deliver a Wipeout-style experience to the PC, it succeeds in its task, but in the process it's also managed to create one of the best racing games available on the platform in general. You simply cannot overlook this game. Oh, and there's also a VR mode if you want to. If you want it. Oh, I can't, I'm done it. I'm done, it's happening. I'm gonna throw.